All right. Well, thanks for having me, everyone. So, which one of you guys made it out to XS last night? That's why this room's really full. This is actually really great to see. It's great. I'm curious from the group as well, how many of you are marketers? Nice, nice. How about on the creative end? How many people work on creatives in this room? Oh, good show up. This is great. This is great. So why are we talking about creative today? Well, creative is really important, and it's important by a long shot. When we look at it, creative is by far at 49% the #1 contributor to ad effectiveness. But in addition to it being obviously important because that's how brands are interacting with your, or customers are interacting with your brand, what we also consider is that creative is, a huge amount of data, a huge amount of data points that can be factored in. And when we're kind of in this room and over this past couple of days, we recognize that signals are hard to come by. And there's a lot of signals everywhere. And we're thinking about, well, how do you incorporate the creative signals into your marketing? How do you incorporate how that all plays a part? So, with that, when we think about it, how many creatives are you guys currently working with on a month-to-month basis? More than 50? Give me a show of hands. How many people work with more than 50 creatives in a month? How about over 100? Some people use over 100. Well, from our data, from our creative platform, what we realize is that when it comes to successful creatives, it's about 1 in 50 that really are the ones that are successful and really driving that forward. So what does that really mean? It really means that you're gonna need a means to generate more and more creatives, and with that, you'll have a better chance of getting a successful one out of it. But making creatives isn't cheap, it isn't easy. So how do we solve for that? And without looking at the title of this session too hard, it's AI, And what we're actually seeing is that 83% of creative departments are already leveraging generative AI. And what's interesting about it is that when we surveyed them, about 20% of them required it. And it was coming from the department itself, or it was coming from the customers. So AI seems like it's going to be really important, and it's actually going to help you scale your business. So from that, you're going to get a lot more creatives. On average, what we saw was about 58% increase in the total number of creatives. But with an increase in creatives, what does that mean? More data, more variations, more components, more elements into every single creative to get all those different variations. How are you going to make sense of all those data points? Is it going to be you manually parsing through all these different creatives to figure out which elements are really working for you? Or is it just leveraging more AI to help power that? And so what AppsFlyer has done and what we've kind of accomplished here is trying to pull together, leveraging AI to not necessarily generate the creative, but to understand all the different components of that creative. So if you're running, a creative with a blue car, a red car is a typical example. Are they driving through a city? Are they driving through snow? Are they driving through a desert? Is that content user-generated content? Or is that content something that's coming from gameplay itself? All those little factors play a part, and all those different components can factor in not only at the impression, how much ad they consumed, how long they were on the creative, how many clicks it drove, but also what other down-funnel events is it really touching? Are we driving installs? Are we driving subscriptions? Are we driving ad revenue? Are we driving user growth and adoption at the end of the day? So from our point of view, we think it's obviously really important to incorporate AI into the generation process, but also the optimization of that. And without further ado, I want to introduce Zach and LaRosse to the stage. Please give them a hand. Have a seat. So before we get started, I'd love to just give you guys a quick chance to introduce yourself and a little bit about what your company does. Zach, go ahead.
I'm Zach Pond, VP of Marketing at MobilityWare. I got my start in games, did the LA circuit, EA, and then Disney, and then Warner Brothers. I'm now doing casual card games. So we support from the marketing side more than 20 casual card games. So if you've ever played a solitaire, free cell, spider, spades, hearts, any card game you can think of, that's what we do. So I've got a team of artists and product marketing managers, and we make a ton of creative and a ton of art.
Awesome. LaRosse.
Hi everyone, I'm Liraz. I believe you know TikTok, so I won't introduce TikTok, but I'll introduce what I do. I'm leading the creative and brand strategy for our advertisers, such as Zach here. We work with clients to identify the creative narrative, the creative needs. We work with them on ideation, strategies, optimization of creative, and help them grow through that. Yeah.
Very important roles, both of you. So let's take a step back and look at how it is now versus 2 years ago. Zach, from your point of view, how has creative been different for you, and how have you approached creative optimization from there?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's lived through it. Certainly have less signal after ATT. That was not fun for any of us in the industry. So our network mix has changed a ton. Facebook just frankly doesn't work for us anymore. So I think that's a huge piece. The other thing that we've done is really double down on creative and creative production in a way that we can really track, right? So we specifically now will come up with what we call a creative bucket. And then inside of that bucket or theme, we'll have 4 or 5 concepts. And then 4 or 5 concepts from there will then come into winners, which we'll iterate on 4 or 5 different times, right? And having that structure now allows us to know when something wins, why it wins. And then we can iterate even more on it. So just adding that extra structure to what we do instead of just like, I have an idea, maybe this creative will work, and it works or it doesn't. Now we can say that creative bucket is working, or oh my gosh, that concept is amazing. Chase it, splinter off another 4 or 5 iterations of that. That has really started to just be something we can recreate a little bit more strongly.
Yeah, I'll speak from creative standpoint. I agree with you. The last years was about iterate and try to find those new concepts, but I think something has changed also in the creative landscape. The users today are not as native as they used to be. So fake gameplays become not as successful as they used to, for example. They need to see the real thing. We have a trend on TikTok called, or minor trend, called real ads versus real gameplay, for example. So they're playing around with it, and they know to recognize when it's not real. So on the one hand, we have creative work that need to be a lot more professional, a lot more with the data to the product. On the other hand, as you both mentioned, we have so many creative also today to manage. So how do we optimize it? How do we look at this? On TikTok, we're trying to start from a point where we know from advertisers what's worked for them and see how we work it up with the platform itself, adding some best practices from the platform, creators, and emotions into known concept that we already find out is working. So this is how I see it, at least from a creative standpoint.
Very cool. Well, let's zoom in a little bit on the fact that now we're talking about bringing in upper funnel measurement, lower funnel measurement. All that comes into play. When we think about the KPIs that you're dealing with, Liraz, can you share a little bit about how you factored all that in?
So first of all, it's a huge argument. Always an argument of creative effect or not effect on lower funnel. I personally believe it is, but if you only look on lower funnel, you're kind of missing the full picture. So you want to, what we're trying to do is look on a full funnel metrics. So if we look on this, we can find out if the creative has a high CTR, and then he's appealing, engaging, and then how much conversion do you get out of it? Then based on this, you can build the creative strategies. So if a creative needs to be improved from engagement, it's low CTR. Let's say it's have low CTR. So I know we need to pull some elements that improve in that part, compared to lower funnel where we could add some gameplays to make it a bit more understandable for the users. I give an example from TikTok. We already know and identify that we have hooks, trends, creators who help us get engagement into creative. But that alone wouldn't get us the right results or the only results we want to get from the creative. We need to find the right gameplay to attach with it and build the right balance between those two KPIs. And this would be, for me, successful. Finding the right balance between upper funnel, lower funnel to bring us the most value.
Yeah, and I think I actually walked in both worlds. I came up as a product manager, so on the product side, and definitely, I felt much more invested in those kind of retention numbers that are D30, D60, D90, right? Like I'm creating these moments of delight. I'm keeping these people in my game. But after that, I am now on the marketing side of things, and it's like, yeah, I think I feel a little more invested in conversion rates and IPMs and CPIs and getting people right at the top of the funnel. So the real answer is both, right? And I think hopefully you guys haven't had to live too much of it, but it's a little sad if the product teams are like, marketing, just go get us people. And the marketing people are like, just keep people in the game. Like it can get a little gnarly there. But the true answer is you've got to have great creative that gets people's attention, but then also delivers on that promise of integrity of what the game actually is. and then a game that retains people and gives them those moments of delight after they're in the game too. So I think it's both.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's got to be some level of cohesion between product and marketing, and it's all a factor. It's part of the customer's journey and customer's experience.
I can add on this even just
Please.
another
Please.
note, but a lot of time we can learn from the product what's working for marketing. Taking elements from what user playing with into marketing ads help us a lot at time to identify this gameplay that deliver the right users. And the other way around, if we're finding elements on one side of the platform, we could on marketing we could pull it up in product in many cases and play around with it.
Yeah, and it's probably not a wild revelation to anyone, but the content-driven strategy works, right? Game teams come up with some new content, a new feature, a new something happening, and then the marketing teams have a great story. We're always looking for something fresh to talk about, and if there's something new in the game and the people are looking for that new thing, I mean, you've got that virtuous cycle that can continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are really great points. You think about like you have your user base, you're going to run retargeting campaigns, test your hypotheses on your existing customers, and when you figure out that works, you're going to create those same creatives for a UA point of view, run the paid campaigns, and that's going to help create that cycle where you're really testing, you're really optimizing, really kind of figuring out what really works for existing customers as well as the new prospects that you're really looking to bring in. It's really cool stuff. If we were to kind of zoom out and look at from a platform to platform point of view, there's a lot of omni-channel approaches. How is it factored in when it comes to creative? How are you factoring all the different platforms that you're running on? Zach, you want to go first?
Yeah. I think I talk out both sides of my mouth here for a second. One, it really does matter what creative you're making for what platform, right? Like you guys know that. If you're making a TikTok, that looks really different than an Instagram story or a YouTube. Like, and those things are different in the way people consume them. It's different in, are you going to use trending audio on TikTok? Obviously works really well. But in that, what we have found is that also on the flip side, for us, the research-driven creatives that we get through partners like Solston, some of our research partners are here, talk to those guys, they help us out a lot. We find nuggets about key motivators that our players are looking for, what drives them. We bake that into our creatives no matter the platform, right? And so if I understand that altruism and eye contact is big for my players who happen to be older females, typically white US females in Middle America, we put something that has an altruistic feel that makes eye contact in that ad. Wherever we run it, that one tends to work better, right? So yes, you got to make it by platform, but also have it be a research insight-driven creative. And then whatever costume you put it in, a playable, a search ad, or whatever it is, it will show up better for you across the.
I couldn't agree more. The idea is to find this concept that attract your users. Your users are your users. You're just meeting them a lot of time differently between platforms. Once we have this successful concept, I can give an example from RPG game. We have level up the character. It's a well-known concept, every time works. If you're doing it on ad networks, we're probably going to do a lot of gameplay, animation, something around the character that's very strong, maybe music. If you want to take it to social platform like TikTok, then it's becoming, you need to adjust it a bit. So you could have voiceover, you could have text on screen, you could have a creator just reacting to this, it's amazing, what's the level up in? And have emotion into the same type of a concept that's still delivering the same result. We just make the narrative a little more interesting between those platforms where we're meeting.
Yeah, makes total sense. Let's switch gears and talk about AI a little bit. When it comes to AI, Zach, how are you currently leveraging AI? How important is it for creative optimization?
Yeah, so we've got, again, I mentioned we support over 20 different games, which is a lot, and we have a team of like 4 or 5 in-house artists. That's their time is always just packed to the hilt. So what we're trying to do now is use AI to help us learn some things, try some things before we ever have to use an artist's time that is so precious, right? So an example right now, pull back the curtain and share with you super secret, not that secret. So we have a golf solitaire game, and it has really strong ARPU, but it's just hard to get people in the game, right? And so we're like, well, what if we did a character there? Ding, AI, let's try it. So we've been Midjourney. If you haven't checked out Midjourney, very affordable, super fun too. You can get it on your phone, Play with your kids or your roommates and just come up with anything you want. It's actually quite entertaining. But we've been there and said, all right, let's see if we can get a character. What are we thinking about? Somebody's like, well, what about Happy Gilmore? There was that crocodile that, ate the guy's hand. All right, well, let's try crocodile. So you start typing into Midjourney, crocodile wearing a golfer's outfit on the links, whatever your prompts are. Boom, in 60 seconds, now you've got 4 let's iterate on that one in like a clay morphic style, maybe more 3D. Boom, you've got 4 more. So I can sit there with my product marketing managers who have the ideas and have done the research, and we can spit out a number of things and iterate and get, it's not an exaggeration, right? It would take my artists maybe a week to get 2 or 3 concepts or direction. We just did 100 in like less than an hour, right? And so then we can take those to our artists and say, speaking a visual language, hey, this is what we're thinking would do well based on the ads that we're running, the KPIs that we're seeing, and the creative direction we want to go. Make sure you don't have the eyeballs in the snouts, right? Because sometimes you get weird things. And it's like, eyeballs inside of the end of the crocodile's nose? That didn't need to be there. So it's entertaining and wacky, but doing those kinds of things, blue sky ideating first, really helps us then maximize our artists, our real fleshy human artists' time, because we've already done a number of steps. And if you have the time, you can even click test, right? Do a Facebook test, put in some statics, and you can get some actual quant data before you then say to your artists, this is the direction we're going. And then they build it, and then we tweak it, and then we do a lot more with it. So that's been really fun.
Yeah. Creating assets definitely one way. It's gonna be amazing over the next year, I'm sure. Something that we do already today. I think there's 2 places where you can think about AI. One, AI could help us look on a wider kind of way on how we manage creative. We talked about hundreds of creative. We're trying to look over to see if they perform or not. Think about it, me, you, anyone here can see 1 to 10 creative at a time and trying to figure out what's worked, what didn't work, which element it has. It's very hard to identify that. AI could scrap the whole thing quite fast and help you understand, here's a character that keep coming up with an associate with CTR. Here's one color that associate with lower funnel metrics, and give you this wider look. So this is one place that I think a lot of this industry are going to go. The second thing is help with research and concepting. It's not replacing creative people. Creative still going to need my job is still there. I'm sure about that. But if you think about it, you can ask to the OpenAI, just, hi, give me 5 trends from TikTok on the gaming landscape. Then you can ask him, script this for me as an ad. And there you go. You already have this basic start lineup for creative. Very quick. You're still going to need to be on a platform. Go to TikTok. It's great. But you need to know it. But still, it's saving you a lot of time when you're doing it. So those 2 places are very useful when it comes to AI.
Yeah. Definitely. I think there's so much that can be done with AI. I think we've kind of just hit the surface. And I think we're going to continuously learn more as we generate more creatives, as well as taking more data sets that really empower the AI itself.
Yeah, and just one thing I saw, that was a quote that said, today's AI is the worst AI you'll ever use. It's going to be better, right? We know this. It's taking leaps and bounds already. So it's the best AI you've ever used because that's what we've got. It's also the worst, and it does wacky, weird stuff. So, but I think, it's going to continue to be very, very fast in its evolution. And so don't put your head in the sand and be scared of it, right? Some of my artists are like, we don't want to. And it's like, it's just like Photoshop. It's a tool. It's a tool to take your ideas and make them faster, better, hopefully more effective and more efficient.
I couldn't agree more. Creative people will still going to be there. It's just a tool to execute it in a larger scale and get larger ideas out of it and work with it. The one who will be able to use it for the benefit, I think this will be where the world would go to. So,
yeah, absolutely. So for the people in creative in this crowd, obviously continue using it. And those marketers that are taking that data and making sense of it all, continue using it. I think everyone in this room should start using it if they're not using it already. And hopefully by next year, we'll be seeing all of you again, and we'll see a better generation of AI. But perfect. I think we're at time. I really appreciate both of your time. on stage today. And if you guys have any questions for us, I know we're out of time right now, but we'll be around. We'll be in the rest of the venue for the rest of the day. And so just feel free to reach out to us and ask away.